and warm welcome to our next Finland Management, IT and Tech session, Building Your Startup Future in Finland. If we haven't met before, my name is Pia, and I'm one of the organizers of today's event. I hope you have all enjoyed your event so far, and just a quick reminder before we start. Our event follows the Safer Space principles, and if you need help at any point, do ask. Our moderator is here to help you. We invite you all to ask questions during our session on the chat, and the most upvoted questions will be answered at the end of this session. But now it's my utmost pleasure to introduce my dear work friend and Business Vantaa's startup ecosystem manager, Miikka Neuvonen. Miikka's session will lay out what kind of public and governmental support Finland has to offer for startup founders. And you are in good hands indeed, as Miikka has helped countless startup founders on their journeys to success. So Miikka, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I have a few slides to back me up. Can you, Pia, maybe give me a heads up when you see the first slide? So as Pia said, I'm Miikka Neuvonen. I work in City of Vantaa as the startup ecosystem manager. I've been in Vantaa for the last 2 years, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Wonder if the technology is working. Now it is. Perfect. I mainly work on startups, but of course we have a lot of scale-ups, a lot of corporations, a lot of universities that we work with, and about 50%, even more of 50 is foreign entrepreneurs that we work with. So a lot of the people that are already here, you can't see my slides, Glenn says. All right.
Yes, sorry to interrupt, Miikka. I'm just popping here to let you know that we cannot, in fact, see your slides.
There we go.
That's the moment.
So what about now?
Yes, now it's working. Okay, please go on.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not the Mr. IT at all. So yeah, so more than half of the people that I work with are always from a foreign background, and we work with all sorts of stakeholders. And I think on an everyday basis, we see both the opportunities and possible struggles of entrepreneurs in Finland, and it helps a lot to do your homework beforehand and see what works and what doesn't in Finland. I'll be speaking for about 20 minutes today and then 10 minutes for questions. I think the key message that I want to deliver is the trust in the public sector system that Finland has. It might sound corny, depending a little bit on where you're from, and it's not self-explanatory, but there's a lot of people, including us at Business Vantaa or any city in Finland, and also in the governmental level, that work to your benefit. There's no hidden agendas, there's no hidden causes, there's nothing for us to gain apart from making Finland a little bit better in having your company in Finland. And that trust goes through every layer of the ecosystem. It starts with the political stability. Some of you might have seen and heard from our previous Prime Minister, Sanna Marin, female Prime Minister in her mid-30s, with a small child conquering the world, not caring of what statutes or what laws or reasoning there was, but she was striving for a change. And nowadays she's working with the Tony Blair Institute and touring the world with the Obamas and such. And she kind of showcased what it means in here. You can be of whatever origin, ethnically, religiously, otherwise, of whatever age, of whatever gender, and you still have the possibility to make a change. And that actually applies to the business world as well. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that haven't yet turned 18, which is the legal age in Finland to be considered an adult. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that are in the late 70s or early 80s still rocking and rolling. In Finland, when we have elections, whatever happens in the parliament, it's always a multi-coalition party parliament, and that means that whatever happens, whoever's in charge, the focus is still somewhat in the middle. There's nothing drastic happening when you look at the bigger scale of it. One of the key cornerstones of the system is, of course, the legal background of it. The corruption levels, Finland is constantly, I think, in the top 15, often in the top 10 in the world. I'm not saying the system is perfect. That's not at all what I want to instill in you, but it is better than many of the other systems around the world. And the corruption is very, as a concept, it doesn't really exist in the same way that it might be somewhere else. One thing that makes it easier for you to start your business in Finland or move your business if you already have an existing one to Finland is the infra. Connectivity, both in terms of how it happens over digital versus, is also very transparent, and the modern transport systems exist. Of course, if you go to a very small city, I'm from a small city in the east of the country, it's not as highly functional as it is in maybe the capital region or Tampere or Turku in Finland or Oulu in the north. But that really helps with how you set up your business. I think on average, Finland, as it's a big country by surface area, the sixth biggest in Europe, but it's very sparsely populated. It still has, I think, 99.8 connectivity level, 4G or 5G even in bigger cities. Now we go to the stake of the presentation. So if you're a startup founder and you're looking into coming to Finland, we have both a national program called with Business Finland, the national governing agency for public grants and loans, but also that's where you apply for a startup visa. So if it's visas we talk about, we've got three. We have entrepreneurial visa, we have a talent visa. There's an exact name for it, I can't remember it now. And then there's a startup visa that you can apply. In Helsinki, Espoo, Vantaa, which is the Finnish capital region, about 1/4 of the population in Finland lives here. The Sisu Factory team has a ongoing soft landing program, and they will help you hands-on throughout the process. Again, completely free. Again, this is their job. Again, there's no hidden agenda. Again, this is about trust. You tell them what you need. They'll help you along the way to smoothen the process. And then you apply for the startup visa. You get the green light from Business Finland and the Finnish Migration Office. You land here, and then you already have a pre-made connection with the Sisu Factory startup advisors that will then help you with the usuals. If you come with a family, in what kind of schools are there for your children, if there's something that your spouse maybe needs, there's programs for spouses in helping them also get employed and get connected to the Finnish ecosystem. And then there's all the more focused support for startup ecosystems, how to apply for funding, the events you should go to, the events that are taking place, the ecosystems, how they communicate, what you can find from within. In Vantaa, for example, it's about 3 events a month, and then you have a Slack ecosystem, and then we guide you. We have one-on-one business coaching with all the startup founders that want that. Not everybody needs it, but I think our role in a nutshell is to help. So I know it sounds like a cliche, but that's how I normally describe what I do for living. So you come with me with whatever you do for living, and I'll help you along the way. I'll open doors to maybe investors, or whether it's R&D support. So if you want to talk to maybe universities to use the facilities or laboratories or something else, or whether it's applying for public funding or you know, the whole nine yards. The Finnish startup ecosystem is of course maturing every year. Nokia was one of the founding pillars of Finnish technological revolution and innovation in one way, because after the collapse of Nokia, that was about 8% of the GDP of the whole of the country of Finland. A lot of the high level experts stayed behind. They wanted to stay in Finland with their families often, and they wanted to contribute back to the society that we now have. And maybe 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, it was very rare to come across with a startup that didn't have anybody in the team that didn't somehow have a Nokia connection or a Nokia background. And so for the past, I'd say 25, 27 years, the Finnish startup ecosystem has grown. At the moment, we've got 8 unicorns. There's 4 soon reaching that level, and maybe the biggest one, it's not a Vantaa-based company. Unfortunately, the Oura smart ring that I'm wearing is now reaching the 10. It already reached 2 weeks ago the 10 billion valuation, becoming the first decacorn of Finland. If we go to the basics, we have a fairly good citizenship e-business owner system where you can easily register your business. You have direct access to tax office, tax administration officials. You can always spar. It's not send this and it's a thumbs up, thumbs down approach. It's more a negotiation. You ask for help before sending in, for example, tax claims. And maybe one of the best parts of the Finnish business ecosystem, especially for startups, is that nobody in their right mind would come to Finland and think Finland is their go-to market. 5.6 million people, aging population, good on technology, good on many things. But if that's your go-to market, then I think your aspirations are too low. So Finland is a good place to come to do test bets. So pilot your MVP stage company, or do something and see what works and what doesn't, because the society, when it comes to language capabilities, is very English oriented. The business world, especially startup world, almost completely done in English. In Vantaa, for example, all of our events and communication when it comes to startups is in English. And then you get, I'll have a slide on it, but you get access to EU, which is often very important. So you'll have your foot inside the EU, European Union market. You also get yourself inside the Schengen area. And after that, it's so much easier to work within the European context. We've had quite a few companies that I've coached in the past or that I know of that need it, that they felt that it's important, if it's in education, for example, that they were a Finnish edtech company, and being a Finnish edtech company, they felt opened more doors than being, say, Brazilian edtech company or Indonesian edtech company. So depending a little bit on the field, but I think the single market access is the key in this whole thing. You've heard probably the reason you're on this call is something to do with this. One of the safest countries in the world, good public and private healthcare systems. The well-being and stability of Finland is something that attracts with the current unfortunate times we're living in. They sound often, when I use these examples in my presentations or when I travel abroad, they sound a little bit too corny and too cliche, but they do actually make sense. And for the first time ever, we've had a lot of movement, for example, from Silicon Valley towards Europe. And where Finland fails, honestly, I don't want to give you any false hope or false information. So we don't have what maybe Portugal or Estonia can do when it comes to tax redemptions and such. But what we can do is the softer values, the key core values of life that are so important when you are thinking of whether to relocate to a new country, maybe to a new continent, alone with your spouse or maybe with your whole family. And it applies, actually, I'll go back a little bit. It applies also to gender balance. It applies to work-life balance. Super important in Finnish society. When Finnish people say they're on a holiday, we're really on a holiday. That means it's going to be extremely tricky even to contact us. When it says that you're working from 8 to 4, I know for startups it doesn't really apply, but I've been a startup founder myself, so I know. But 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, that's almost like a written law that people actually finish at 4 o'clock afternoon sharp or 5 o'clock in the afternoon sharp, because we value what happens after that. It's so important for us to spend time with our families, having hobbies, or just enjoying time with friends, etc. One important part, of course, is it comes from the core Finnishness, I would say, that the green values and sustainability is essential for us. A land of nearly 200,000 lakes and 70% of the surface area of Finland covered in trees. So if you want peace and quiet, you come to Finland. But also, when you set up your business here, you need to make sure that the sustainability things and the whole green part of your business has to be not just on par, but it has to be exquisite. Oh, I can't remember my slides, but that's typical of me. The social benefits, yes, in a welfare state like Finland, we're losing a lot of the if a startup makes a bankruptcy, there used to be a lot of stigmatization about that, but I think it's changing now. It's normal to try and fail and try again. A lot of the big success stories when it comes to startups or scale-ups is stories of serial entrepreneurs who just knew that they had the drive, they had the vision and the innovation, but maybe it didn't work out for one reason or another in the first time, but then later in life they made it happen. So good unemployment fees, fairly straightforward system, and a society that picks you up when you fall down. That's something that I admire a lot on how it's been built in Finland. We went through some of these already. So there's two institutions, Business Finland and ELY Center. I know it's a mouthful. They have some financial instruments to help you get going. So if you're a startup founder, before you set up your company, you apply for a startup grant. That's 700 euros a month. I know it's not much, but that's something to keep you going, something to motivate you going forward. And then at a certain stage, when you have revenue and when you have maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 employees working in your company, then there's Business Finland funding instruments. And the peculiarity, what makes Finland stand out, is these are not just loans. These are often grants, so money that you don't have to pay back. No, I'm not saying that everybody gets money for free and you decide what you want to do with that, but at least there's the option for a good company wanting to scale quickly. There's a lot of instruments that help you along the way. I couldn't have in the slides on what these are because Business Finland is going through a restructuring phase, so what they'll have in the future remains to be seen. If it's startups, of course, IPR, intellectual property rights are important, very straightforward systems. We have a lot of deals with different legal offices that know how startups work and know the needs of startups. I won't dig into too deep on this because I know there's a lot of you who aren't working only on startups. And then, like I mentioned when I started, it's not just city-wise or university-wise. You become a part of a larger ecosystem. So you maybe study in a university or University of Applied Sciences. Then you have the municipality help on different layers and different people. And then you have regional, and then you have the national. One of the key things I want to highlight as I'm running out of time is in here, people want you to succeed. So success is a joint cause, and the help you get from other founders and other people working in the industry is very, very valuable, and you should never say no to a coffee or maybe a beer if you want. Thank you for that. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Miikka. That was a really holistic and warm view on the Finnish startup scene. We have here a question. Can you please repeat the name of the institution for supporting entrepreneurial visas in Helsinki?
Yeah, it's a national organization called Business Finland. And
Yes.
then the soft landing program we have with me and Pia's colleagues, for example, is called Sisu Factory. Maybe somebody can write it down in the chat so that people have it and have the landing page to Sisu Factory there as well.
Yes.
Sisu is the Finnish word for grit and perseverance that people claim is the reason why Finland has succeeded somewhat in the wars we've had, unfortunately, hundreds of years ago or 100 years ago. But Sisu is a concept that you should Google before coming to Finland.
Yes, and I would even say that when a person comes to Finland, that is one of the first words you are going to learn. Yes. Could you please tell a bit more about the Sisu factory and how it operates?
Yeah, Sisu Factory is a 6-person team. So we have hired people in Helsinki, Vantaa, and Espoo, the whole capital region. It's partly EU funded, and it helps solely on soft landing programs. So startups wanting to come to Finland outside of the European Union. So if you're European but not in EU, that applies to you. But mainly it's African, South American, North American, Asian, Oceanic companies that want to relocate. They've relocated, or they've helped relocate about 100 startup teams in the last year or so, and there's at least 100 more applying. So it's a very successful project and program already.
Yes. And I also see that your description of Finland has resonated, because here is a comment. As an international citizen living, working and studying in 5 countries in 3 continents, I cannot agree more with you that Finland equals safety and rauha.
It's good that somebody vouches for what I've been saying. That makes me happy.
Yes. Could you also describe a bit more that in what kind of situations can people contact you or your colleague, Sergei?
Yeah. In any kind of situation? No, it's normally the way, if you have a business idea, if it's a startup business idea, you go to our business advisory team. So we have a team focusing on any kind of entrepreneurial journey that you are embarking on. So if it's building or founding a restaurant or driving taxi or becoming a hairdresser or anything like that. So they'll take you through the first steps, including the startup grant. But after that, they'll consult you or intro you, like we say in startup world, to us and say, hey, this is very cool AI company or health tech company, or they're building something different and unique. You should have a look. Then we have a one-on-one meeting, not just one, it's often multiple meetings, and not just, in a space of a month time, but it's often months, maybe sometimes years, and then you get to meet these people at events, and you're always there for them. And to us, it's I always take pride if a team that I've coached, whatever that means, is doing well, or maybe having a funding round. I always think that the babies are doing well.
Yeah, that's a lovely way of putting it. And then we have a really good practical question about Sisu Factory and Business Finland. So when to approach Sisu Factory, and in which cases to Business Finland?
In all cases, if you have an existing business, I would go through first Sisu Factory, because they will help you write the application towards Business Finland. So I'd avoid contacting Business Finland directly. It's they're the ones making the decision. So it makes more sense to have the help of these experts on your side, and spar the ideas and explain what you do. Again, there's a lot of applications, a lot of fake applications, a lot of ChatGPT applications nowadays, and it's very hard also from Business Finland side to know if what you do is real. So that's why also having it's not a recommendation, it's more the help from the Sisu Factory team that makes sense.
Thank you. And the next question, this is not maybe one of the Finland's selling points, but you can try. So what type of tax benefits, exemptions are Finnish companies entitled to in comparison to, for example, Estonian or Irish-based incorporation?
Almost none. There's an ongoing discussion within the Finnish Parliament that if that is something that we need to do in the future. So, like I said, our age pyramid is really wrong way around. We're unfortunately almost like the Japan of Europe, very small birth rates, and older and older women having their first children, and then the whole pyramid is not in a balance, and we need migration. But unfortunately, we don't have instruments that we could say that has anything to do with that debate. And we also know that our tax rates are higher, but that's something that you have to accept when you're coming to a socialist welfare state where the benefits of paying taxes comes in different forms.
Yes, that is
Was
well
that
put.
political enough?
Yes, it was. And just a quick question. The Slush event is approaching. So in which events the attendees can find you?
I'll be the one attending 15 minutes in every event and running around the capital region like a headless chicken. My recommendation, the tickets are quite expensive. I'm not sure if they're already sold out, but there's a lot of side events. So go to Slush platform and just browse through the side events. I think last year there were 300 side events all in all in that Slush week. For example, Vantaa has a side event with the Embassy of Egypt next week already, so week before Slush. And then during Slush week, we have an event with Vantaa Energy, which is one of the main energy companies in Finland that's looking always for startups and scale-ups and innovations together with Innovestor. So on Tuesday, 18th in the evening on our startup co-working space at the airport. So it's easy to access if you just landed in Finland, feel welcome to come, and you get my contact details online or from Pia and Glenn. So just let me know if that's something that you would be interested in. The main events, of course, at Slush, but then also the last thing I want to say about Slush is they have a conference wing outside of Slush where you don't need to have a Slush pass. So there's Business Finland Happiness Lounge with a program for 1.5 days. There's a lot of side events that you can enter without having the Slush pass. So I'll be there, of course, because not everyone that I work with or need to see won't be at the main Slush event.
Yes.
And then, of course, any karaoke evening in the night, I'll be there.
You'll be there. Thank you, Miikka, so much for joining us today. This is actually all the time we have today, even though I could have kept on discussing with you for a lot longer. Make sure to with Miikka on LinkedIn if you want to keep on learning about Finland's startup scene. And thank you so much for everyone who joined us for this session. And just a quick reminder, there is still one final session you don't want to miss out about communication in Finland. And it's going to be a fun one, I promise. But now
Yeah, I
it's
can
our
vouch
time.
for that as well.
Yes, so don't miss that one out. But now it's our time to say thank you and enjoy the rest of the event.